In this video we will compare the American Pitbull Terrier with the Patterdale Terrier. So it's a versus, and it gives you some insights. So first of all, there are different breeds. The American Pitbull Terrier was developed for being especially in a box, sometimes also for handling cattle and hunting especially hawk. Whereas the Patterdale Terrier is an elite bird terrier. It has some other applications, but it's not an expert in that. It's just the earthwork that really shines. So that also would mention some of the difference already, because being an earth terrier, and normally all terriers should be earth terriers because terra means earth, but this is a certain size. So an American Pitbull Terrier is a lot bigger, and also there are other differences. For example, being a smaller dog, the digestive system has a relatively more mass in a Patterdale Terrier as it has in an American Pitbull Terrier. Another thing is, by American Pitbull Terriers originally being bred for the pit, their dog aggression levels are oftentimes a lot higher than that of working terriers that are aggressive against quarry, for example a fox or a badger, but not so much aggressive to other dogs. It doesn't mean that any breed of dog cannot have same-sex aggression. So it has two males being macho against each other, or two females, of course. But the levels are a lot lighter than in a pit dog, of course. Another thing is that in general, and I can only speak in general terms, because especially in the American Pitbull Terrier there's an extreme diversity. Some are very lanky, some are very bulky, depending if they go for the endurance aspect or the power aspect. But in general, Patterdale Terrier is much narrower in build. How are you? Hey Sammy! It's much narrower in build, and that is because a Patterdale Terrier should have quite a small chest circumference to follow the quarry. So this region is a lot narrower. Also, Patterdale Terriers have very flexible chests, more flexible than an American Pitbull Terrier. Both breeds are quite athletic, so that they are able to turn around in a den, but also around their body, of course. So that's a good thing. And very often as well hey, lekker aan het genieten. Very often as well the head is stronger in American Pitbull Terrier. So you have, in summary, a little bit less weight that can be used for power, because they have a bigger part for the digestive system. Also, there are some other things that are different. Mikey, if you look at the feet, they are a little bit wider and stronger. Your average American Pitbull Terrier, depending on the relative weight, so to say, the size, because the terrier also needs to dig, so they have to have a little bit of small shovels attached to their feet. Also, they have strong feet. Sometimes American Pitbull Terriers in particular, when being inbred, it will become worse. Feet can be easily hurt. Of course, if you would have a quarry between an American Pitbull Terrier, which is a lot larger dog, and then Patterdale Terrier, you will easily break the bones of a Patterdale Terrier because the size difference. But to their relative size, they have stronger feet. Also, they have a very thick skin. So there's a difference between American Pitbull Terrier that has to lose as much as heat as possible and stay within a certain weight frame, whereas the Patterdale Terrier doesn't need to see very thick, strong skin. Doesn't need to stay within this weight frame, but just a chest circumference. So if you want to put your hands across this, should be narrow enough for it to enter the dens. So in comparison, an American Pitbull Terrier would need to bring as much power as possible for a certain weight class, whereas a Patterdale Terrier should need to bring also a lot of power, but then for a specific chest circumference size. So what does that mean? That Patterdale Terriers can be quite dense animals, because the denser they are, the more dogs you can put into a small chest, whereas American Pitbull Terriers are often a little bit lighter in the bone. So also for breeding into running dogs, you get more lightness when adding an American Pitbull Terrier of the same size that you would get from a Patterdale Terrier. The Patterdale Terrier, however, might bring better feet, and also because they are hunting dogs, they also have a little bit more hunting drive and better nose as well, because those things are often not required for an American Pitbull Terrier. So that gives you some insight in the comparison of these two breeds. Have a great day. My dog is a Patterdale Terrier of 1.5 years old, BSL ESTACADO. Specific parameter that I haven't mentioned yet in the comparison between American Pitbull Terrier and Patterdale Terrier. Patterdale Terrier being a terrier comes in different coats, whereas Pitbull Terriers are all smooth-coated dogs normally. Like this, Patterdale is also smooth-coated, but you also have them in a long, rough-coated versions, and you have them in broken-coated, so it's a little bit intermittent. So short-coated with longer hair sometimes. Have a great day. This video is the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier. It is a working line Staffordshire Bull Terrier compared to the Patterdale Terrier, also known as the Black Val. Here is a Black Val Terrier, Patterdale Terrier, 1.5 years old, BSL ESTACADO. So the differences between the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier and the Patterdale Terrier, you could say that the Patterdale Terrier is from the United Kingdom. Between England and Scotland, that region, got on English soil, and the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier has been developed in Ireland. But in my opinion, also some of the English Staffordshire Bull Terrier could be classified as an Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier if they have that working genetics and also working drive in this particular species of specimen, in this case, still there. So one could say that both Patterdales and Irish Staffordshire Bull Terriers were used in badger trials, but that would be, in my opinion, to a large extent false. So the difference between the Staffordshire Bull Terrier of England in general, which has now evolved to the show version we know, and the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier is particular that the Irish still kept the Tiestos more, which is a test of gameness, and was only allowed breeding rights and recognition if they passed that Tiestos more, and Tiestos more was against the badger. So that gives you insight why the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terriers have remained a lot more capable and more athletic than the English show versions. Also, they were still being worked. But this pulling the badger is a lot different than what a Patterdale does. So Patterdale goes into the den and sometimes also pulls out the badger, or is being dug to, whereas an Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier only does the last thing, pulling it out, and it's not small enough to be dug to and really enter the den because of the ample size. Very often these were artificial dens they made so that the Staffordshire Bull Terrier could enter, the Irish ones. And this means that Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier was tested against badger, but Patterdales are also tested against badger and fox, and they really enter the den and keep in there a lot more time. And also the Patterdale Terrier is a lot smaller breed. It's a real terrier that it can go to earth, whereas Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier is more the size of a dog capable of facing off with a bull or with each other in the canine gladiator arenas. As well, that Staffordshire Bull Terriers and Patterdales are both classified as strong dogs, so the strong and silent type. They don't make a lot of noise, but sometimes also in the Patterdale Terrier you have mixed types, so types that can be the catch dog, like the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier, but it can also be the dog to do a little bit of baying work, so barking to show the hunters where the prey is. But this is not the baying. It's not that usual with the Patterdale Terrier. It's more with the Russells or the German hunting terriers. Patterdales as a whole are more known as a catch dog type of earth-going terrier. So, being a dog that was tested in the TSS more as a badger pulling dog, of course they were a lot bigger. Also, oftentimes those dogs that were used for those trials were kept quite fat, so that the badger would have more trouble to work its power against the animal, and also to keep the damage that the badger would do with his bite to a minimum. Whereas Patterdale Terriers needed to be small enough to fit into the holes, and that gives you something else. Also, smaller dog means a bigger part of relative mass is based on the digestive system, so that's not so much functional in terms of power, but it's just a fact of life. And another thing is that Irish Staffordshire Bull Terriers came from pit dogs, so dogs that were pitted against each other at a certain weight, and therefore they bring as much as power as possible for that specific weight. Whereas a Patterdale Terrier is more of a terrier. They need to bring as much power as possible for a specific circumference of chest. Yeah, hoor. An additional difference between the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier and the Patterdale Terrier is that first, it's always smooth coated, although the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terriers are known to have a little bit longer hairs than, for example, their American cousins, but they're all smooth coated. And Patterdale Terriers comes in three coat varieties. Here you see a smooth coated Patterdale Terrier, but you also have Patterdale Terriers that are rough coated, so very long haired type of dogs, and also in between you have the broken coat. And in general, an Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier has a lot longer, lot bigger head as compared to the body than a Patterdale Terrier. And because a Patterdale Terrier needs to be small and able to enter dens, and Staffordshire Bull Terrier needs to bring as much as power for a certain weight, which gives them also other characteristics. Irish Staffordshire Bull Terriers are more prone to be dog aggressive, whereas Patterdales are more known to be aggressive against, for example, foxes or badgers, hunting aggressive. Not so much against other dogs, but it's still dominant little buggers. And all dog breeds you find that they're same-sex aggression, especially. So between two males and two females, there's always a big chance of getting some macho exchange of pleasantries, so to say. Have a great day.